Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of College Hockey Talk. We are here today with former UConn hockey captain Wyatt Newpower. Thank you so much for joining the podcast, Wyatt, and how's everything going?
My pleasure. It's going well. Just had a nice Thanksgiving dinner with some family, and now just hanging out and getting ready to hopefully one day play hockey soon.
Yeah, definitely. How was your Thanksgiving, and overall, how's your quarantine been, and what have you been doing these past few months since your season last ended?
Quarantine's been quarantine really. Played a lot of golf over the summer, just finding ways to get out of the house. Um, and then as of lately, it's just kind of getting back into working out. Well, not getting back into working out, but working out, skating, getting back on the ice with things opening up. And yeah, it was just nice to have family in town for Thanksgiving, and it was nice to get a good big meal.
Definitely. Now, you recently signed a contract with the Cleveland Monsters of the AHL, and I want to congratulate you on that. Talk about signing your first pro contract, and what's the return to play scenario like for the AHL? Because I know the NHL is having discussions about how they're going to return to play.
Yeah, so I mean, really, it was kind of a dream come true to sign a pro contract. I've been working my whole life to make it to this point, and just give myself a shot to continue to pursue the dream. And then for the return to play, it's basically a target date of February 5th right now, and then the AHL is just going to kind of follow suit with what the NHL does here, and just kind of play off the way that things go with the big league. And a lot of it is just relying on when fans can get into the building and when they can open up seats and ticket sales and whatnot. So yeah, February 5th right now is the date, and we're hoping that it's able to stay. If not, come a little earlier maybe.
And how do you mentally try to stay prepared for the season without a set start date in plan?
Yeah, it's definitely different and it's difficult, but it is what it is. I guess we've had to do it all summer. It's been a really long off season, but yeah, you're just kind of working because at some point you're going to have to be ready. So my mindset is just kind of like being on call. When you get the call and they're going to start things up, then you got to be ready. So you got to take advantage of a lot of free time they have now to be able to make yourself ready for when that call comes, because it could come as soon as like a week in advance. So you just kind of got to stay ready.
Now, I want to start off talking about the beginning of your hockey career. You're from Minnesota. Talk about growing up there, and how did you start playing hockey?
Yeah, I grew up in Hugo, Minnesota. I had four siblings, two brothers and two sisters, um, and we all played hockey. We had a rink in our backyard. My dad made a rink in our backyard every winter, and that's where we learned to skate. And it just kind of took off from there. And played for the same White Bear Lake Youth Hockey Organization my whole life, growing up with all my friends. And it's just the way things are in Minnesota. Is you play for your local association, then you go play public high school hockey. So it's a cool experience to be able to play all those years with the same guys who are your best friends because you spend every day with them at the rink. So it's special to be able to do something like that, and I have a lot of pride in White Bear Lake from spending my whole life there and playing there, and forming all my best friends. So it's a lot of fun, and I wish I could go back and do it again.
Now, who was your favorite player growing up?
I love to watch Nicholas Lidstrom, being growing up close to Michigan. Got to see a lot of Lidstrom and Chelios and guys like that. I was also fun to watch guys on the Avalanche like Forsberg and Foot, and just some of those guys. And yeah, and just guys that were just so consistently dominant in the game.
Now, before UConn, like you just said, you played for your high school at White Bear Lake. Talk about what it was like to play there, and what did you take away from your experience overall?
Yeah, I got to play 4 years there, and form a great relationship with the staff. And it's a lot of fun being able to go to school with the same guys that you've gone to school with your whole life, and then go to the rink after school. You basically just spend your whole day with them from 7 a.m. till 5 in the afternoon, from hockey or from school to hockey. So and then just learning from all the experiences that the coaching staff that I played for had both my coaches played Division I hockey, and so just being able to learn from them and kind of get experience and advice, and still being able to I have a great relationship with those guys still, and I still ask for advice and whatnot from them. So it's really nice to be able to form those relationships with the experience.
Now, talk about the Minnesota high school hockey scene. It's pretty cool. I've seen some clips on YouTube. What was it like to be a part of it as a player?
Yeah, it's just formed into so much more since I've even graduated and left. But like I said, it's just that tradition of you grow up your whole life playing with the same kids, and then you all go into high school, and you're all pursuing the state championship, of course. And everybody wants to get to the XL Energy Center where the Wild play and where they host that tournament. And it's kind of hard to explain because of how special it is, I guess, and how it was normal for me. And so it's tough to explain that. But I never had the chance to go to the state tournament there at the Wild Arena, but my little brother got to go a couple of years ago, so it's cool to see my high school be able to return back to that tournament and get to watch him play.
Is it weird, because you played college in the East Coast, is it weird trying to explain to some of your teammates just how big it is up in Minnesota?
Yeah, it is. It's different because I played for pretty much one team my whole life until I got to UConn, and a lot of the way things are out there, you play for a couple different prep schools and split seasons, and you're playing for multiple teams, and so it's just different. The guys don't really understand it because it's just different. It's a different way of growing up and playing hockey. So, but it's cool, and it's cool to be able to explain to those guys, and they want to know about it because they hear about it. So it's cool to watch it with them and be able to talk to them about it and kind of let them know from an inside perspective.
Now, how did your experience at White Lake prepare you for college hockey?
Like I said, with the coaching staff there that had Division I experience, I think that was probably the biggest benefit I had was guys that had been there before and knew what it took to get there, and knew what it took to be successful at that level, and just kind of having them as a guiding light essentially really helped me grow up while playing for them, and then be ready to step into UConn and make an impact.
Now, talk about your recruiting process for a bit. Why did you choose to go to UConn versus other schools?
Yeah, I guess mine was a little non-traditional, to be, for lack of a better term, but I wasn't really being recruited for, nothing too serious through high school. And when I got to my senior year, played the whole senior year, and I wasn't really being recruited to college. At the time, I was tendered to play in the North American League up in Fairbanks. And then following my senior season, I committed to a team up in the British Columbia League in Vernon, British Columbia. So I was set on going to juniors, and that was what I wanted to do. And then I got a call while I was in gym class one day from Coach Pereira, and he introduced himself and said, "Hey, we want to bring you out and have you for a visit." And there was a tournament in Boston that they were going to get me into because they had never seen me play before. They had heard through relationships from NHL scouts that knew UConn needed a right-handed defenseman, so they reached out to them, and then the staff at UConn reached out to me. So they had never seen me play, so I went out there. I toured the campus. It was a beautiful campus. I had a great time, and then I got to play in a tournament out in Boston, and they were able to see me play. And that was in May of my senior year of high school, 2016. So that happened, and about 2 or 3 weeks later, after talking to the staff and my family and whatnot, I ended up committing to UConn to step right in after I graduated from high school. So it's a little unconventional, but it was an exciting time for sure, and it happened fast, which I think made it more exciting.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit more about the coaching staff at UConn. What was it like to play for Mike Kavanaugh? He seems like a great guy, and he seems like a very intense guy on the bench as well.
He is intense, but it's because he has a lot of passion for the game, and then for UConn especially. And he's a smart hockey brain. He's been around for a lot of years. He's got a lot of experience, as well as his supporting staff, and Tyler Helton and Joe Pereira, both guys that have Division I experience and championship experience. So it's be able to play for those guys that have been doing it for a while, and they've seen what works and what doesn't work. They've had the highs, they've had the lows, and to be able to play for them at UConn was a blessing. And they're some really brilliant hockey brains.
Now, being a defenseman, what was the biggest adjustment you had to make to your game, and especially not playing juniors as well?
Probably the speed going from high school hockey right into college. It was definitely a way faster game, and you just have bigger bodies moving at faster speeds. So just being able to judge speeds and be able to defend guys and judge their speed and their movements, it was definitely a big change that took the better part of probably a year and a half to 2 years to really get dialed in.
Now, during your freshman year, you got to play at Fenway Park at the Frozen Fenway game. Talk about that experience against Maine. I was at that game, and it was the coldest game I've ever been a part of. I was freezing. My hands were like so dry. Just talk about your experience playing Maine in that game.
Yeah, that was sweet. Anybody really knows what Fenway Park is. I'm a big Minnesota Twins fan and baseball fan, so I know what Fenway is, of course. And that is still the only time I've been to Fenway. I've never seen a baseball game there. I've only been there for a hockey game, which is kind of funny. But yeah, the game didn't go the way we had hoped, but the experience was pretty sweet to be able to walk out through the dugouts and onto the field and get to play outside there in front of the Green Monster. It was pretty sweet. And as cold as it was, the ice conditions weren't the greatest, but yeah, it was a lot of fun to be out there to play.
Now, during your freshman year, you got to play with one of the best UConn players of all time in Taj Thompson. Talk about being his teammate and what was it like to play with him, and just talk about that one-timer he has because it's always lethal even today in the AHL.
Yeah, he has one of the best shots I've ever seen for sure. But yeah, he's a great kid. I got to know him really well. Like when I moved out there for the summer leading into freshman year, and yeah, he's a lot of fun to be around. He's a young kid at heart. You know, he's kind of the same age as me. He's only 2 months older than I am. So it's nice to be the same age as him, and then get to play with him. He's one of the most talented kids, especially at 6'5" or 6'6", whatever he is. He's a giant. But to be able to play with him and just get to work with him, it was really fun and it was really cool.
Now, during your sophomore year, you had a very similar run to what you had this past season. Talk about that sophomore year run, beating some of those top-ranked teams like Providence and Boston University, and especially that game where Maxim Latunov got that great backhand goal to basically solidify your playoff spot.
Yeah, I think the story of that season was just we had so many older guys that were so committed to that program, and all they wanted to do was just win. They didn't really care how. So, just to have, I think we graduated 10, 11, or 12 seniors that year. So the leadership on that team was bar none, and guys bought in, and everybody bought in. And, Letty is obviously equally as talented as Tage and as a playmaker. So, yeah, that place erupted when that goal happened. And it was really cool to be a part of that team and be a part of which I think was the top finish in Hockey East for UConn.
Yeah, you got to play Boston University in the Hockey East quarterfinals. What did that mean to you, especially since it was the furthest UConn has ever made in the Hockey East playoffs? And I was at that game as well, and there was more UConn fans than there was Boston University fans. It's a pretty cool atmosphere.
Yeah, the UConn fans traveled well that weekend. It was really cool to see. But, yeah, that's the way hockey goes sometimes, and it didn't work out the way we wanted it to, even though we thought that we played two really solid hockey games, and that's the way it works. But the guys, that season was a lot of fun just because of the team was so tight knit, and the relationships that I had with each guy on that team. It was a real pleasure to be a part of that experience.
Yeah, and talk a little bit more about Maxim Latunov because he's probably one of the most underrated UConn hockey players ever. What was he like as a teammate? And talk about his shot as well because it was pretty cool. And he also got his first NHL goal recently a few months ago.
Yeah. Max was a great kid. I'd love to hang out with him, and also got to know him really well in the summer leading up. And I kind of hung out with that crew and Max and Tage and that class a little more than most. So I got to develop a really good relationship with them. And Max stayed a couple more years in Tage. So I got to play with them more, and it was a lot of fun. And more so than anything, his playmaking abilities as a center is, it's one of the best I've ever been on the ice with. And The way he plays the game is he's super smart and skilled, and yeah, he's got a heck of a shot as well.
Now, during your junior year, you got to play in Northern Ireland. Talk about that experience and getting to play overseas.
Yeah, that was sweet. I had never been to Ireland before, and just getting to see Dublin and Trinity College there in downtown Dublin, and then moving up to Belfast and playing at the only hockey rink in Ireland, all of Ireland, and just the atmosphere from the fans was crazy to see, and then just to be able to experience Ireland and Northern Ireland, it was crazy. And yeah, it's ever since then it's been a place I wanted to go back to just because of how much fun it was to be out there.
Now, was there adjustment playing in that game? Because the arena seemed a lot bigger than most college hockey rinks. And also, there was a ton of advertisements on the ice. Did that have any effect to your game at all?
Yeah, it is a little different. I want to say that that was an Olympic-sized rink, I'm pretty sure. So it is a little bigger, similar to like something that UMass or New Hampshire has. And so we're lucky enough to be able to play on those league rinks in UMass and New Hampshire. So we had some experience on the Olympic ice, but yeah, it's different with a little more advertisement and logos and whatnot on the ice, and just adjusting to the whole thing in general was tricky, but it was a lot of fun and it was well worth it.
Now, you also got to play in Vegas your junior year as well. What was it like to play there and to play in an NHL rink, especially?
Yep, also my first time in Vegas, and that was unreal. You have to stay on the Strip, and then play at the brand new T-Mobile Arena. It was that facility is beautiful, and again, a tournament that didn't go the way we wanted to, but I had a lot of family that came to watch, and it was really cool to be able to have them out there and play in such a sweet facility and a obviously fun location. So another place I'd love to go back to after being there.
Now, your team didn't make the playoffs your junior year. What do you think went wrong, and what could have you done to improve that season? Because you guys kind of figured it out towards the end, and you had a lot of freshmen come in that year as well.
Yeah, I mean, we were a young, inexperienced team, and that's the way it goes. I think, it just took a little longer for things to click, and that can happen. And but nobody did anything wrong, or we didn't do anything wrong. I would say, in my opinion, things took a little longer to click, and it was a little too late. And that's the way it goes sometimes. But that team battled more than any team I've ever been on, with just the situation and the way the season went that year. It was a group of guys that never gave up, for sure.
Now, in your senior year, you got to co-captain with Ben Freeman. Talk about what type of leadership you wanted to bring, and what was it like to co-captain with him as well? And are you more of a vocal or a lead by example type of player?
Yeah, I think me and Freeze were both more lead by example guys. I was maybe a little more vocal than him, but it was a good mesh between the two of us because he works harder than almost anyone I know, and including Sash and Karashik, all guys that work harder and they do all the little things. But yeah, me and Ben just kind of wanted to bring a hard hat, lunch pail, work hard mentality type of mentality to the game, and we just wanted to get the guys to just do the right things and do them to the best of their ability, and show up every day and enjoy doing it, and and just give everything we can to try and help the younger guys, because we were still a younger team at that point, and just to try and help them get acclimated as quick as possible and kind of get the ball rolling as quick as possible, learning from the year before. And I think the way things went for us senior year, besides the way it ended, was pretty much what we wanted.
Yeah, and you guys went on a big run towards the end of the season. You beat Northeastern and some other ranked opponents. Talk about that run that your team made towards the end of the year, and how was it different than the one you had your sophomore year?
Yeah, I think it was just the way things worked for us, and we kind of found our shtick. We kind of found what worked for us in those back-to-back weekends of beating UMass and then sweeping BU there. It was just kind of something we found that worked, and the guys really bought into it. And they really, after those two big wins over those teams, they kind of just proved to ourselves that one, that we can beat anyone in the conference, and two, that what we want to do, the way we want to play it, works. So Not that that was any different from sophomore year. It was just obviously a different crew and different situations. But yeah, it was that final run was just a matter of guys buying into the way we wanted to play the whole year, and obviously getting some puck luck and some bounces here and there and whatnot. And Tomas playing great in between the pipes. It was just things were really starting to come together.
Yeah, I thought the quote Mike Cavanaugh made after that BU one was he talked about how some of the leadership didn't want to split series, especially last year when you guys split BU. You won a good home game and then lost the second game on the road. I thought that was an interesting comment. He said that was the difference between some of the teams that you guys had was you weren't settling on splitting series. You wanted to sweep series and you wanted to improve that way. Just talk about that quote and just that game against BU because that was probably the best UConn hockey game I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was. We wanted to go in there and we wanted to command the play and we wanted to just demand everything from the team and from the guys because we were sick of playing a good, solid game and then the next night, kind of choking away points in a sense because we know we can beat them, obviously. So that was it was just an all-out effort to do everything we can to go home with 4 points that weekend. And I think Coach hit it right on top of the head. Was that whole locker room wanted those 4 points for the weekend, and we showed up that night and we certainly commanded the way the game was going.
Now, talk about that major upset your team had against UMass on your senior night. What did that mean to you since it was your final home game, but also just the game itself, coming back and winning that game late in the third period?
Yeah, it was. I still tell people probably one of my favorite hockey experiences. The heck of a crowd in Hartford that night, and for that to be the last home game I played there was a pretty decent way to go out, in my opinion. But it was again just a gutsy effort, an all-out effort from the guys, and just kind of the way I was describing. We found our shtick was we're just not going to stop coming at you, and we're not going to stop. And that was kind of the mentality that we brought. And obviously 2 goals in the last minute and a half to win the game against the number 8 team in the country is a big win. And then just to be able to have it with the guys that we spent 4 years, a lot of days and nights in the gym and at the rink for that program was a special way to be able to leave the XL Center for sure.
Now you were supposed to play Maine in the Hockey East quarterfinals this year before everything got shut down because of COVID. Where did you find out, and what was your reaction knowing that you played your final game with the UConn jersey on?
Yeah, we had a practice on like a Wednesday or Thursday morning. I can't remember, but we just had a warm-up practice because we didn't want to get up there and practice. So we practiced first, and at the time we had an idea because some things were starting to cancel. So it was kind of like, gee, I hope they don't cancel it. Like, at least we can play with no fans or something like that. And, so we practiced and whatnot. And then when we got off the ice, we were told to go get lunch and then come back to the rink because our AD said we can't get on the bus until he gives us the green light because they were in discussions about what was going to happen. So we were all packed up, kind of just sitting at the players' lounge at the practice rink there. And I think it was someone tweeted or something that the Hockey East playoffs had been canceled. And I remember me and Sasha were at the rink and the other seniors were still grabbing lunch or something. And Coach Cav pulled us into his room and he told us. And it was obviously heartbreaking. Sasha and I both just got up out of the room and kind of stepped outside, and because we didn't really have anything to say, and it was just tough to have something like that ripped out from us when with nothing we can control, which looking back now is obviously the right thing to do, and people's health is far more important than the Hockey East playoffs. But in the time, in the moment, it was super tough to handle, and it was a very tough week following that, just trying to get over it. And I had a quote at the end of the year that said, "No, we don't want to leave until they throw us out of the building." And I guess they didn't, but COVID did throw us out of the building. So, but it is what it is. And, we left that program as best shape as we possibly could. And we could look ourselves in the mirror and say that. So that helped getting over it. But yeah.
Now, what do you take away from your time at UConn? And do you think UConn gets overlooked a lot, at least in the Hockey East polls, because they're ranked seventh for this preseason poll? What do you take away from your time at UConn, and where do you hope to see the program in the next 4 to 5 years?
Just I just took away that never take a day off. Nothing's gonna be given. Everything's earned, and we have a quote in our locker room that says treat the custodian like you treat the CEO, and something like that sticks with me because you just never know who someone is or where they came from or anything. So you treat everyone with the utmost respect, and just being able to mature for 4 years in that program was super special to me. And yeah, I hope nothing but the best for that program. And I'm probably a little biased, and I would say that they get overlooked, but that's something that in our locker room we would use as motivation, and we kind of liked it. So we always said we don't get any respect at UConn, and that's okay. We're not asking for it. We don't want to ask for it. It's something we use as motivation, and it's okay what people want to think, and that's fine. And we know that everybody's entitled to their own opinion, and that isn't official. So I am biased for that, but yeah, I hope that program takes nothing but giant steps in the right direction, and they definitely have the staff and the talent at that university to be able to do it.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about some of the teammates you got to play with. The first one is Rusan Asakov because he probably has the best hands in college hockey. He was always buzzing around the ice. I loved watching him play. What was it like to be his teammate? And also talk about you played with a lot of Russian players. Jan Kuznetsov was a freshman when you were a senior, as along with Vladislav Firstov. Just talk about the diversity your team had and getting to play with those three guys.
Yeah, I got to meet Ruslan in the summer leading into his freshman year, and he lived with me for a little bit in the summer when he was still getting acclimated to the school. And I played in the Foxborough League up in Massachusetts with former player Miles Gender, and so I would bring Ruslan up there, and so I got to know Ruslan really well, and got him to open up to me a little quicker than maybe everyone else. But yeah, Ruslan's a heck of a kid, super smart, even for not being like English as first language. The kid is brilliant, and he's probably one of the most naturally gifted hockey players I've ever been on the ice with, for sure. And he's going to have a heck of a career. And yeah, just I had never really played with foreign kids to an extent, so it was cool to be at UConn where we had a lot of foreign kids. And Jan and Vlad was drafted by the Wild, which is my hometown team, so that was cool to be able to experience something like that. And yeah, they're great kids, and the Europeans, they do have a little different mindset in the way things work, but boy, the kids we had on our team were just unbelievably talented hockey players, and then great guys to hang out with and be around. And yeah, it's also really cool just to experience the way they do things, their culture and their habits and whatnot. And we did something. I think it was my senior year. We did like meals around the world or whatever we did. So we had meals from the Czech Republic for Tomas and Yakum, and then we had Russian dinners for the Russian kids. And I think we had a fish and chips or something for Brad Stone from England. And so it was cool to be able to do stuff like that. And I think it really opens your eyes to what they're going through, because I could not imagine putting myself in the middle of Moscow and going to school right now and trying to play hockey.
Yeah, I heard Vladislav Firstov's nickname is Vladdy Daddy. Is that true?
I think he probably has quite a few nicknames, but yeah, that was one of them. It just kind of rang and it stuck, and he loved it. And he's got a really good sense of humor. So, but yeah, that is definitely one of his nicknames.
Now, you also got to play with Carter Turnbull. We had him on the podcast. He's one of the best dudes ever. What was it like to play with him? Because he's very underrated. He scored a sick goal last week against UMass as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did. That was a great goal. And yeah, Carter's a great kid and one of the nicest kids I've ever met, and also super smart kid and very respectful. And yeah, he's obviously a smaller guy, and sometimes those smaller guys tend to get overlooked, but he's one of the hardest workers. He's probably one of the best, if not the best athletes on the team. And he's super strong, and he's always usually top three in the off ice testing. And he just works his butt off. And yeah, and then if you watch him play one game, you understand what kind of player he is. He flies around, and he's just a pest out there, and then he can put the puck in the back of the net, and he proved that last year with being the tied for first and leading goals with Sox. So yeah, it was a pleasure to play with him, and he definitely makes the players around him better.
Now we're in the non-hockey segment of the podcast. My first question is, what is the best pizza in stores? There's a huge consensus going on. Tomasz Wamaszka said Blaze, but what is your opinion on that?
Blaze is probably what most people would say. I wasn't personally a huge fan of Blaze. Um, I don't know why. I had it a few times, and it's good pizza, but I'm a pretty generic guy. I'm a big Domino's fan, and they have Domino's in stores. So if I got pizza, my roommate and I, Justin Howell, we would oftentimes get some Domino's.
Now, staying on the flavor of food, what is the best ice cream flavor at the Dairy Bar?
Boy, I don't even know. I'm a pretty traditional cookies and cream guy. It's tough to beat cookies and cream, in my opinion.
Nice. Now, if you could have lunch with anyone in the world, who would it be and why?
Oof. Um, that's a tough question. I don't know. That's one you got to prepare for. Off the top of my head, maybe someone like Tiger Woods, or I'm a huge Tiger Woods fan, and just what he's done in his athletic career, and or someone like Kobe Bryant, same thing. It would be fantastic to see their perspective on the way they approached their profession, because they're obviously two of the greatest in their respective sports, and they're both really well known for their work ethics and the way they did things. So I think it'd be really cool to talk to them.
Now, the semester is ending in college, but in your time, what was the hardest class you have ever had to take?
Statistics is a tough class, that's for sure. That was a tough one. Yeah, I don't know. Any math class you put out there is going to be a tough one, especially for me. I'm not a math guy.
I'm not one either, so I can agree with you on that. Now, final non-hockey question is, what is your biggest pet peeve?
Oof. I don't know. I'm a pretty clean guy, so messy stuff around the house, or dishes and whatnot. That can get annoying and on my nerves sometimes, but not too much. I try to stay relaxed.
Yeah, definitely. Now, back to some hockey questions. What advice would you give younger players trying to pursue D1 hockey?
Um, what you see today with the social media and whatnot is just just keep keep going. Even if you're not one of the kids being tweeted about, posted about, recruited, even for that matter, just keep pushing. You don't have to be noticed by the Joe Schmoes in the rink, or the average Joes in the corner of the rink filming or whatnot. You don't need to be noticed by them. And if you're good enough, they're going to find you. So just keep pushing and just keep making yourself better, because you will get noticed.
Now, what should I do better to improve as an interviewer and make this podcast better?
I don't know. You were pretty spot on, in my opinion. Yeah, you had some good questions, and you were prepared. So you're rocking with a good podcast, in my opinion.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Well, I'm a big UConn fan, so I knew a little more about the team than probably most people would.
Good. Well, we appreciate the fans, man. We got the best fans in the country. I'm confident in that.
I agree with you on that. Now, is there any shout outs you'd like to give to any of your former teammates or family members before we let you go?
Yeah, obviously every guy that I played at UConn with, it was a pleasure, and I'm fortunate enough to be invited to some weddings with some former teammates there this coming summer. So that's exciting. Congratulations to those guys like Derek Pratt, Tage, Rob, Steve Thulin, the guys like that, Miles Gendron. It'll be exciting to be able to get back to those weddings and kind of hang out with those guys. And then the guys that are there now, I don't know what things are like. They seem pretty hectic right about now, but just keep pushing, and I'm hoping they get to play a full season.
Yeah, I do too. They played well last weekend. They got the shootout win against UMass. Caleb Howland had that great goal, so I'm hoping the best for them as well. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Wyatt. I really appreciate it. I wish you nothing but the best for your season in the AHL, and take care.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
No problem. Have a great day. Bye.
You too.